is San Francisco. This is the marina. Exclusive, expensive. And this is a man about to take a human life. Militar omnis amans, said the poet Ovid. Love is warfare. And he might have added, even more dangerous. The unknown quantity is woman. A curious creature, full of contradicting moods and strange attractions, and with as little logic in her love as in her hate. Yet, we find her strangely necessary. Some of us even believe she's worth dying for. Kind of thing which brings people to 333 Montgomery. Jake Brittin. I'm a lawyer.
All these years, you've never had a client on death row. Look, Master, why not keep it that way?
I've also heard how important the Fremont are.
It's an open and shut case.
I've been told that too, my dear Captain Quincy.
Look, Piper had been bothering E. Fremont for weeks, following her on the sidewalk, phone calls, nasty little letters.
The nerve reaching out of his class like that.
Well, now, don't tell me it doesn't happen. He had a thing about her. He went to her home, broke in.
Without leaving a mark on the door.
Well, he picked the lock or something.
Or something.
Now, knock it off, Jake. You don't have me on the stand.
That's right. You're too good an officer to be giving me opinion when I'm asking for fact.
According to E. Fremont, widow of victim Charles Fremont, suspect Frank Piper entered their home at approximately 2:40 April 7th and attempted to seize her while muttering lewd proposals. Her husband came to her assistance, whereupon suspect drew a .38 caliber pistol and fired 3 shots into husband, who continued grappling with suspect until he fell dead outside their home. Suspect fled on foot. Look, Jake, this Piper's had trouble with women before. He's a dirty little animal.
I'd plead him guilty to that. But the charge happens to be murder. Tell me, Piper, why Eve Fremont?
I guess with her being class and all, I was trying to improve myself.
You were what?
But this is how it happened, straight. We met at a North Beach bar. Maybe she was slumming, I can't say. But she knew what she was looking for. She liked me a lot, too. We met again every chance she got. Real class. Figured maybe some might rub off on me.
Was she a little more class than you could handle?
I tried to get rid of her. We had a fight. She promised to fix me good. A couple of days later, she called. Real sweet, said to come to our house. She'd single out the window when her husband left. I kind of went for that, you know? She'd never let me go to her place before. So the door's unlocked. I come in. She gives me the old smile. Says to follow her. And all of a sudden, she gets with a scream and yells that I just busted in. And a man comes charging out from the living room, her husband. And I back away, she keeps yelling. I try to explain, and her husband keeps moving in. I try to get behind a flower pot or something, and he knocks it aside and keeps coming. So I pull my gun, I shoot him to the floor. And he keeps moving into me, you know? And he's big, and I'm all shook up. So I let him have one in the chest. And he keeps coming like a water buffalo or something. So I hit him with 2 more. And he still grabs me. I gotta drag him clear outside before he lets go. There was no way out of it. He would have broke me in half.
Four shots in all. The first into the floor. You're sure of that now? You fired 1 shot in the floor.
If I cop out, I could maybe get life, huh?
You can't deal, Piper. They want your hide. So, I'll take the case.
What?
Murder is the unlawful killing of a human being with malice aforethought. You tried to warn him off, then fired in the heat of quarrel without malice. Properly defined as manslaughter. That's the crime, that's all you're guilty of.
Look, if I live to be 100...
You look. I don't like you, Piper. And if Fremont had lived to kick you black and blue, I would have applauded and suggested he do the same thing for his wife. But I'm convinced you didn't commit murder.
I got any chance?
Practically none. Now, let's start through this whole story again.
It was a place called Chappie's, North Beach joint. She came in dressed to kill. Everybody turned to look.
I sat down and I ordered some fruit juice. I've been shopping, you know. It was a little cafe in one of the better stores. But I don't remember which one.
It doesn't matter, Mrs. Fremont.
Objected to on the grounds of the prosecutor's opinion. What matters is...
Go on, please.
Well, after a while, I noticed this Piper person sort of leering at me.
And that is objected to on the grounds that a leer is a matter of conjecture.
The court believes that any intelligent woman can recognize a leer. Overruled. Continue, please.
Well, the following night, I received a telephone call from him asking a question. The language was rather indelicate. Do I have to use his words?
I'm certain defense counsel would just as soon we omit them.
Then I started receiving notes, the same kind of proposals. And then he started following me and watching me, and I was afraid, you know. I hurried down the stairs, and I knelt down, and when I saw that Charles was dead, that was when I went in and called the police.
Thank you, Miss Fremont. Your witness, Counselor.
Mrs. Fremont, would it confuse you if I started at the end of your story and then worked backwards?
No, not at all.
I thought not.
Now, Your Honor, that is
Your Honor, I'm merely voicing my sincere admiration for the witness's startling clarity of mind, her detailed account of the events, which, considering her bereavement, is...
The reporter will strike Mr. Brittin's complete statement.
May I respectfully suggest that the court feels my words contained any disrespect that the reporter read back my statement.
We object on the grounds that he is now trying to underscore the very remarks that he made.
The court is perfectly able to analyze Mr. Brittin's motives without any help. Mr. Brittin, you are dangerously near contempt. I suggest you get back to cross-examination.
Now then, Mrs. Fremont, in your original statement to the police, the People's Exhibit A, you stated there were 4 shots fired by the defendant. And here on the witness stand, you're testifying to 3 shots. Which is the truth?
Well, I may have been a little confused that first day.
Which is the truth?
There were 3 shots.
You're certain of that?
Absolutely.
As certain of that as every other detail of your testimony?
Yes.
Defendant pulled a gun, aimed directly at the victim. Bang, 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 just like that.
Just like that.
And you're determined he died for that act?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor. Defense counsel is badgering the witness into
the truth, Mr. Prosecutor. That is what we're all here for, isn't it?
Prosecution is willing to provide expert testimony to the number of shots fired. When? Now! If you wish.
Then I'll temporarily release this witness, Counselor.
Fine. Step down, Mrs. Fremont. I call Captain George Quincy. Homicide. So we can take it your evidence disclosed 3 shots fired, 3 and 3 alone.
That is correct.
Your witness, Counselor.
Frankly, I'm a little confused, Captain Quincy. Your complete testimony has concerned the number of shots fired into the victim's body. What about bullet holes in the room?
You're referring to Piper's statement that he fired a warning shot?
Yes, sir.
Upon taking that statement, I personally checked the Fremont house inch by inch. There's absolutely no evidence that such a shot was ever fired.
No evidence.
That's correct.
Let me state categorically that I have the greatest respect for Captain Quincy here. Both his professional ability and integrity. Which can only mean that my client is lying. So I now ask for a reasonable continuance while I consider whether or not I wish to be relieved as defense counsel. You really think I'd desert a client, Liz? When I walk into that courtroom tomorrow with my arm around Piper's shoulder, every juror in that box will know that I now believe in my client. The first little crack in their prejudice, Liz. Somebody believes in him. Besides, it'll give me a chance to look for that 4th bullet. And I've got to find it by tonight. Court reconvenes in the morning.
Personally, I think you ought to drop Piper.
Is it all worth it? Is that what you're trying to say, Liz? Take a memo. To whom it may concern. Out of this window, I see a bridge. At this distance, as fragilely graceful as it is beautiful. And out of this window, Alcatraz. Squat. Ugly. The alpha and omega of man's possibilities. The first has beauty, strength, usefulness. The second represents electrically wired chairs, trapdoors for dropping bodies to the end of a taut rope, and little green rooms where cyanide pellets drop into an acid bath. You know which one I believe in, Liz. And if you ever see me weaken, hand me that memo. Oh?
Already know it by heart.
Jake, please, now, this place is sealed off. I've got orders.
If you think I plan to destroy evidence in here, throw me out.
Oh, come on now. You know I'm not saying you'd do something like that.
Well, then help me find the truth. Okay?
Yeah. Fremont must have charged out of the living room here when he heard his wife scream. I'd guess Piper was standing about here when he first fired. You can see Fremont's bloodstains all over the floor.
Yeah. Well, now, Piper said that he backed away first.
And he got behind this flower pot.
Yeah? Knocked off during the fight. You can see where it hit the baseboard here. Jake, there's absolutely no bullet holes in here. You're gonna waste a lot of your time.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see, okay?
Jake, do you realize what time it is?
Oh, strange, isn't it? Bullet usually kills by ripping through the flesh. This one's gonna kill by not hitting anything at all, by disappearing.
Well, will you disappear? My relief is due here any minute. There's just one logical answer, Jake. He lied to you.
What's that?
He lied.
Oh. Oh, you said logic. I've been down on my hands and knees using muscle when I should have been using my brain. Come on, you're gonna help
Jake, I'm begging you.
You're gonna play Fremont. Now get in there. You're Charles Fremont. Now you're coming at me. Now come on. I'm surprised. I'm frightened. I'm backing up. I instinctively get an object between us, a flower pot. You shove it aside. It hits a wall board. I pull my gun. Fire a warning shot.
Jake, will you please? There's my relief. Jake, come on, get out of here. You're gonna get me in a jam. Jake, out the back way, please.
Yeah, kid. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I'm coming. Hold on.
What did you say?
I said, I think I was wrong about you. I think you found that. Oh, thank you. I think you found that bullet hole in the floor, sitting in the rug, isn't it?
In 22 years here, you ever see me hide one shred of evidence?
There's always a first time, Quincy.
I'll let you have one right in the mouth. We're gonna go to the Fremont place together here. I'm gonna make you go over that room with me, every fiber of that drug, mister, until you apologize. Well?
Hey, maybe it hit the wall here somewhere, huh?
You see a hole in the wall. Look for yourself.
Maybe it's painted over.
Do you see any fresh paint? There's not one mark on that wall. Just that one small dent made when that flower pot fell.
Just got your word that's a dent. It could be where somebody putted over a bullet hole.
Does that look like a bullet hole? Look for yourself. Did you see any putty? Piper's there. Got a knife. Stay back, Master. I want to be able to testify I found this bullet myself. Lucky for you, I sealed off this scene, put a policeman outside. If you had ever wandered in here alone and found this slug, that jury would never believe in 1,000 years you hadn't planted it.
You know, I never thought of that. This is the bullet fired by the defendant's gun. You heard Captain Quincy testify to that. Now, is there any doubt that this shot was fired as he backed away, surprised and panic?
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, a man intent upon murder doesn't fire a warning shot. Now, what was Frank Piper's real intention there in the Fremont home? Did he enter by force or by invitation? We've heard two stories, two versions of the relationship between a man and a woman. Eve Fremont tells us that she was being bothered, being followed, suggestive phone calls, letters. But did she go to the police? She tells us she didn't. She testified that she assumed that he would tire of his efforts and see the futility of it. And the prosecutor, in his arguments, assures us that a woman of her position, her cool and assured beauty, would not consort with men of the streets. It would be unreasonable, he tells us. Unreasonable. That man and that woman. Well, now, we buy that, don't we? This is an ordered world. Queens never consort with commoners. This is a logical world. Men of great wealth never steal from those less fortunate. And this is a reasonable world. Nations do not go out and wage a war under the banner of a Prince of Peace. Or do they? Or is this a most unreasonable world? Isn't it a fact that we live in a strange, disordered society which prohibits the taking of a human life on one hand and then compounds that evil by taking the killer's life in an even more deliberate, cold, and cruel manner? Isn't it a fact that you just heard from the lips of a police expert how by unreasonable coincidence a falling flower pot happened to open a crack in a baseboard? And how a warning bullet fired without aim happened to pass through that crack without touching either side. And then, during the struggle, by unreasonable coincidence, that crack was kicked closed. And now, you are being asked to find on a case to determine whether or not Frank Piper went there with malice in his heart, intending to kill beyond a reasonable doubt. What is reasonable? What is unreasonable? Did a man die because of an angry finger on a trigger, or did he die because of a beckoning finger in a window? Tell us by your verdict who actually killed Charles Fremont. I'm afraid I didn't quite reach that jury, Phil.
You reached Eve Fremont. You catch the look on her face?
Yeah. Well, whichever way it goes, she may wish she could trade with Piper.
Captain Quincy. Thank you. Jury's coming in. I can't figure you feeling sorry for anyone like her.
Defense is my business, George. I hate to see anything destroyed.
Is the jury verdict?
We have, Your Honor.
Please send your verdict to the clerk.
the jury find the defendant, Frank Piper, guilty of manslaughter.
I want to thank the ladies and gentlemen of the jury for their service. You're excused until further notice. The court will convene at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning for sentencing.
You did it, Master. Can I just shake your hand?
Congratulations, Counselor.
How about lunch tomorrow at the Palace?
12 o'clock?
12 o'clock.
.333 Montgomery is produced in San Francisco.
This has been a Screen Gems film production from the Hollywood studios of Columbia Pictures.